What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guy Cody here, and I want to welcome on back to the show Matt from Inside the Horseshoe Podcast. Matt, it's been a while, man, since we've had you on. How have you been?
I've been good. It's been a while since I've done any content
Yeah,
whatsoever. But life is busy. I'm working 10-hour days now, but
man.
I got Friday off, so that's good.
Yeah, that was perfect timing. I mean, that
Yeah.
what else? Like that was great. So I'm sure you're anticipating college football, as we all are at this point.
Yes, next week. Next
Yes.
week. I can't wait.
Are you getting the premium, or are you waiting it out till
Yes.
Thursday? Okay.
So I bought the premium initially. Didn't charge me because it was a pre-order. I think they were waiting till closer to the day the game launched. And
Mm.
then I see, because my dad was going to download it on his as well, because he has my profile on there. And he's like, I thought you said you bought this. Like, I did. And he had the MVP bundle. He's
Mm.
like, well, it said he didn't buy it yet. And I was like, well, I didn't buy that one. He's like, have they charged you? Because look at the price. I got the MVP bundle for $52.
Really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I got Madden and NCAA just for
Dang.
52. And it's like I wasn't planning on getting Madden. I was going to wait till it was on sale or whatever and then maybe buy it because it's going to have the new kickoff rules in it. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the only reason why I had interest in it. But yeah, $52
Wow.
in a
Can't beat
heartbeat. So took off all of next week pretty much.
that.
And I am not available for anything. I will be playing
Yep.
all day. And yeah, my sister was like, "Oh, you took the day off for my birthday because her birthday's when the early access starts." Like, yeah, except I'm not going to
Good.
see you on your birthday. Anyway, I think we're getting dinner, but yeah, no,
Nice.
excited. Should be fun, and yeah,
That'll be fun, man. That'll be awesome. Well,
but yeah,
Matt, with training camp also almost here, which is definitely super exciting, I wanted to talk about some players that maybe we would consider as sleeper players to make the Colts roster in 2024. So I think there's kind of a couple stipulations for this. So, number one, I think it's guys that you think will be kind of they are kind of counted out by some people that they're like, oh, they're going to be cut, but maybe they could surprise in camp and make a push for one of the final roster spots at their respective positions. Or maybe it's somebody that we've just kind of forgotten about. Maybe it's through injury or through something else. Not somebody who's going to be necessarily a starter, but maybe somebody that when people are making depth charts and thinking about it, maybe they don't have that player on their list, but we think they have a really good chance or they're pretty much a lock at this point to make the roster. So with that being said, I wanted to start here first with I think honestly, Matt, one of the guys that I think we've seen projected a lot on getting cut, a very familiar face from Colts fans. That's Mo Alley Cox, and a lot of people having Mo off their roster at this point when talking about cuts, but somehow, some way, whether it's with Frank Reich or Shane Steichen, Mo Alley Cox has still remained on this roster and still been a part of what the Colts do in their tight end room.
yeah,
And a lot of people thought last year he was going to get cut, but they've kept him around. And, while he hasn't necessarily been great, I mean,
right.
he's still made a few plays here and there. So, what are your thoughts on Mo Alley Cox and maybe why some people are sleeping on him to make the roster?
Yeah, I think people are sleeping on him just because you look at the room, like you see all the tight ends we have that are like on rookie deals, like Ogletree had some stuff going on off the field. We won't really get into that, but that's all been cleared up, and he's good to go. He's on his rookie deal. You have Jelani Woods on his rookie deal. You have Will Mallory on his rookie deal as well. So you look at this tight end room, and it's like, okay, is there really a need for Mo because he doesn't have anything that separates himself? You would think size. Well, we got some tall tight ends. Athleticism. Well, Jelani Woods has athleticism as well. So he doesn't really bring anything to the table. And then there's one more. I'm completely blanking on his name. You guys have interviewed him a couple
Oh,
times.
Kylan Granson.
Granson. There he
Yeah.
is. So Granson's another guy. Can catch the ball, good route runner. Mo's a pretty solid route runner as well. So he doesn't really bring anything to the table that's different. But and I think that's why a lot of people assume, yeah, he's gone. He's going to get cut. Plus, you cut him. There's no cap hit on your end. You actually get about $6 million back to spend. But I think he's going to stay. I think the Colts can make another move in the secondary. I still think they're going to, even though it seems like we're losing hope on that. But they got the money. They could bring in a Diggs or whatever, and they could still keep Mo. They like Mo a lot. He's good. He's not like a bad tight end or anything. He's pretty solid. He'll go out there and play pretty decent. He's going to have a couple games where he makes big plays. But yeah, I think a lot of people assume just because of the tight end room where it is right now, there's really not a need for Mo. So, like, okay, well, they'll just cut Mo. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to end up making the roster once again. Great story. The fact that he played basketball at VCU, was a part of those teams in the tournament that went pretty far. I think they got to the Final Four even. And then he decides, you know what? I don't want to go overseas and play basketball. I'm going to go play football. I'm going to go try that out. And then he makes the roster. Not only that, he gets another contract. So great story. It's pretty cool. You don't really see that very often. And I think they're going to let him finish out this contract. I don't think he'll be back next year, but, like, I think they want to keep him just in case a Jelani Woods gets hurt or something happens with Ogletree once again. So I think it's mostly to be safe, and they can have 4 tight ends that they trust that can go out there and make some plays. So while most think he's going to get cut, I made a video, I think, saying, yeah, I think he probably will get cut this year. Now, a month or two later, thinking about it, I think he's going to make the roster.
Yeah, and I think one thing that he does exceptionally well, and this is obviously critical for the running game, is his run blocking is so good.
Yeah.
Now, say what you want about the contract. Is it worth paying a guy what you're paying him to just run block? Probably not, but you're right. I mean, the trust factor is one thing, and then just having a guy out there that can help you establish the run, I think is so important because while you have some guys, I think Mo is far and away at this point probably the best run blocking tight end on this roster. So that is definitely something to consider as well for kind of his spot on the roster. Now, I wouldn't be paying him as much as I would be to do that, but I mean, whatever. Like at the end of the day, you still have the ability to pay other guys, like you said.
Yeah, and it's not a crazy amount he's getting paid too. It's like 5.9. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really going to make much of a difference if you want to make a move. I guess if you want to bring Simmons in, he's like, I need 11 million a year. And they're like, we really want this guy. Then maybe at that point they'd cut him, but I don't think they're going to sign as safety for a whole lot of money. I think they'll bring Diggs in. I would bring him in for 2 years just so you're good there. But yeah, I don't think Mo's going to get cut. It's not a super expensive contract. I think they'll live for this season.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to another offensive player here, and everybody kind of presumes probably his quarterback 3, but we're talking about Sam Ehlinger, of course. Now, Matt, this was one specifically I know that you were like, hey, I definitely want us to include it in this. Why don't you talk about why you believe people are sleeping on him to make the roster here in 2024?
Yeah, so I think with like some of the undrafted free agent signings with Slovis and with Bean, I think some people thought, oh, one of these two are going to replace Ehlinger. Like Bean's going to do more than that. He's going to play receiver as well, and he might just primarily stick there. But I think a lot of people are assuming, hey, we signed these 2 guys. There's not a need for Sam, and I see that. I'm like, okay, I understand that, but we're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, especially with Richardson. You want to be safe and make sure you have a solid backup quarterback in case he goes down and you have to put Joe in. But I think a lot of people assume it'd probably be Slovis that would come in and replace him. I think we talked about that too, and you thought maybe that could be the case. But I think they're going to keep Sam over those 2 for sure. It's his 4th year in the NFL. He knows the playbook. He knows the offense. I think that really, if it's going to come down to Sam or like a Slovis or Bean, I think the fact that he's been here longer and he knows the playbook, he knows the offense, he is in year 2 of that, I think that is going to be the deciding factor. Plus, I kind of was confused when they signed Slovis. I'm not a big Slovis guy. I don't know, maybe it's my hatred of USC bias coming in. I thought he was pretty bad at USC once he got rid of a couple weapons. And people have said that with like Will Levis in college or with Sam Howell when he was at North Carolina. When his weapons went away, everybody was like, oh no, he's not playing good. It's only because the weapons are gone. But we've seen with Slovis, he's transferred to Pitt, then at BYU. He had some moments, sure, but overall he has not been good at all. So I was just like, why are we signing him? Like, if we were going to sign a guy that we thought maybe could be that third quarterback, I would have said Sam Hartman, but seeing what he got paid to go to Washington, I don't think the Colts are going to give him that much money. And I feel like Washington's going to make him QB2. But yeah, I think just Ellinger knowing the offense more, and honestly, he's a better quarterback than those two. I think that's going to be the edge and the deciding factor. So I do think he stays on because they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'll be interested to see kind of how that plays out, though, overall. Because, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, Slovis and Ellinger, they're virtually the same size. They're 6'2",
Yep.
225. So, like, they're pretty much like, they're not the same player, but size-wise, they're virtually the same, which is interesting. But let's move on. I have one more player on the offense I want to highlight here before we hop over to the defensive side of things. That player is a player that missed the entirety of last season with him. I think it was a major injury. I think it was ACL. If I'm not mistaken. It's either,
remember.
I don't know. I always get ACL and Achilles, but it was one of those kind of issues. But regardless of what it was a major injury that made Ashton Dulin miss the entirety of the 2023 season. Now, of course, Ashton Dulin's never probably going to be one of the top receivers on this team, but I think we forget sometimes, Matt, how important Ashton Dulin is to this team. I mean, that's the reason why they chose to re-sign him over Paris Campbell, is because he does some really great things on special teams. And he has some ability at receiver, too. I don't know if you remember that 2021 season, but when he was called upon, he actually made some plays. So I think especially in that Tampa Bay game where he made that big touchdown. So he's got some ability as a receiver, but as it stands right now, if you're looking at kind of where his role is on the roster, he is more of that special teams guy and one of the best special teams guys in the NFL at this point. So talk to me about why you think a guy like Ashton Dulin maybe is a little bit slept on by people, and why we both believe, I think, that he's pretty much like, I think if there's anybody who would say is like a lock to make the roster, I think Ashton Dulin is, just for his ability for the special teams.
Right, and I did look it up. He did tear his ACL last season. That's what caused him to be out for the year. But no, he's another guy that can stretch the field. Like, not only is he a really good special teams player, and I think with Gould being added, I think that's the reason why people think he might be on the way out, because Gould is a really good special team player as well. And with this new rule, with how they're going to kind of reflect the XFL's kickoff, Gould fits that a little more than Dulin. But Dulin showed in 2022 that he's capable of being a good, solid receiver. Is he going to be a number one? No. But he's another guy that can stretch the field. People hate guys that can stretch the field. People hate guys that can go deep down the field. Alec Pierce, guy that can stretch the field, go down the field. People aren't big on Dulin. He's a guy that can stretch the field as well. And look, even if you throw Dulin out there just for that one thing, like, he's good at it. He's fast. He's improving as a receiver every single year. I think he's going to stay. And also, he's not really bad at route running, too. Like, he's a pretty solid route runner. So, I think people think he's gone because of Gould. I think they keep 6 receivers, and those 6 are going to be Pittman, which he might get cut too, guys. Even though he signed his big contract, he might get cut. But you got him, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, and then you have Gould and Dulin will be 5 and 6. So I think they go 6 again. And then let's say Gould gets hurt. You need a guy that could play special teams, return kicks. That's Dulin. So, yeah, I think he brings stuff to the table that a lot of these receivers just can't. And you also don't want them to as well.
Yeah.
You're not going to have Pittman return kicks. You're not going to have Pierce return kicks because you don't want those guys to get hurt. Same with Downs and with Mitchell. So you want to have Dulin and Gould. And I think Dulin makes it because of special teams, and also he's a pretty solid receiver.
Yeah, and I think that makes perfect sense there. And
we know Richardson's going to throw some missiles deep down the field. So, I mean, you have Pierce, and then you can have Pittman show that he can do that, but also you have Dulin. So, like, you give Richardson more weapons real fast. Like, if we drafted, let's say, Mitchell and then I don't know, Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's say we got both of them. Okay, yeah, Doolin might be gone. However, that didn't happen. So Doolin stays.
Yeah, I think you feel really good about your receivers. And also just, Matt, I think it's kind of a rule of thumb like that if you're not gonna really see the field, like
Yeah,
you have to contribute somehow. I mean, I think that's why we
right.
see different guys that, make the roster that maybe aren't as talented of players in terms of like, at their position, but they can actually play special teams and play it at a high level.
Yeah,
And that's why they make the roster over other guys that maybe people are like, oh, I can't believe they cut this guy in favor of this guy. But that's a big reason why. And I think Ashton Doolin, has just proven, and that's why he's stuck around, is because his ability on special teams definitely separates him from a lot of the other receivers kind of vying for those spots. So that's definitely something. And like you mentioned, he's a capable receiver. So if in the event that you need him to get some snaps, you don't feel bad about that. Like you feel okay having Ashton Doolin maybe step into the number 4 role for a little
yeah,
bit, or the technically the number 3 outside guy. Like he has that ability and that capability to do that. So that
yeah,
definitely makes you sleep better at night from a depth standpoint at receiver. So definitely think Ashton Doolin's a guy you got to talk about. Now, Matt, here's a guy that you talked about Alec Pierce, how people hate Alec Pierce. Let's talk about the defensive guy that a lot of people dislike, and for good reason. Darrell
yeah,
Baker Jr. He
yeah.
he had some issues last year. We're not going to sugarcoat it. He was not good
No,
last year for the Colts, but you know, I know we rag on him a lot, and rightfully so in some ways. But when I kind of think about it, Matt, I'm saying there was a reason why Darrell Baker earned the coaching staff's trust right earlier on in the offseason. Like obviously he was available, Brent's wasn't, but
right.
also like Darrell Baker still had some moments, in the spring, in training camp where he made some plays. So
Yeah.
while I'm not saying he's going to be a starter by any stretch of the
I would
imagination,
hope not.
I don't think he will be. I mean, if he is,
Yeah,
we're in trouble. But
yeah,
like when I think about it though, Matt, with Darrell Baker, I think a lot of people are just like, cut him, be gone with him. But
right.
there is some level of trust, obviously, for the Colts to want to, number one, bring him back, this year after having some issues. And I think just giving him that trust and that ability to do that. So I just feel like he's a guy that obviously didn't have a great year. A lot of people are down on him, but I think he has a chance. I think he has as good a chance as anybody, making
Mhm.
a roster spot here and seriously competing, maybe on some special teams times and stuff like that. But you already kind of know your top 4. But who's at number 5? I think Darrell Baker's right there in that conversation.
Yeah, because look, the locks to make it for sure are Brent, Flowers, Jones, and Kenny Moore. Like those are the 4. They're going to have another corner at least, if not 2. And this is a position group we've seen that always has injuries every single year. We always see injuries. I remember when we had Carson Wentz, we had like 5 or 6 corners hurt. We had to keep bringing guys in. It was getting to the point that me and you were going to be signed to play corner. That's how many guys kept getting hurt consistently. So you need to have more bodies. Now, I would prefer to bring somebody else in personally. However, once you get to that 5th corner spot, that's where Darrell Baker fits in. And you look at the roster, there's really not a whole lot of other options. You can go Fields, you could go Lamons, you can go Speed. Sure, you could do that. I don't think they will. I think Darrell Baker is going to make it over those guys. It's people assume rightly so that he's going to be released. Did not have a good year last year. Yeah, had a couple decent moments. A broken clock is right twice a day. However, you need that 5th corner. You need to be prepared just in case Brent goes down or Flowers goes down or both go down. So I think that we're going to see Darrell Baker stick around. And look, I can already see right now. It's August preseason game. He's going to make a play. Everybody's going to go nuts. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, here we go. He turned a corner." When in fact he did not turn a corner. It's what he did last year. I remember that. He looked so good last year, and he was not good in the
Yeah.
regular season. So he will stay because we need bodies.
And I'm hoping, I really am
Yeah,
hoping that he does get better though, because I
me
mean,
too.
to be fair to him, like that was his first time ever, like having any sort of experience. And he's
Yeah,
thrown out there as a starter,
yeah,
against right away against Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, and you're
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, like this is rough, man. And so I'm hoping, that he can kind of learn from that and just get better. I mean, he's this is only his second year. This is second year of meaningful, potential play time. And so I'm
right.
hoping that he can just, get better as it goes along. Doesn't have to be a great corner, but I'm hoping he can fill in when needed in those spots. But yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely think he's in the conversation for cornerback 5 because there's a lot of guys, but I mean, at the end of the day, he started games, and a lot of these other guys didn't really touch the field on defense. So that is a factor for sure.
yeah. And I mean, look, I would love to be wrong. I would love him to go out there and be the next, I don't know, Ed Reed, something. Be a great corner. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd love it. I'm hoping he ends up turning it around and getting better. I get on Twitter and he does have post out. A couple people might respond, but like he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah,
He
I'm
seems
hoping the
nice.
best for him, man.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm hoping he can gain some confidence, learn from last year, and at least be a serviceable number 5. That would be great. All right, another guy that we've got to talk about though is the rookie. I want a rookie corner. I think he'll probably be, depending on how many the Colts keep. If they keep 6, I think he'll be in that conversation for 6, battling with some of these other guys. But a guy that was extremely productive in college, Micah Abraham out of Marshall. I know you talked about it, Matt, off air. You saw
Yeah.
Micah Abraham playing, in college, and
Yeah.
definitely made some plays. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
A great
I
game to see.
understand it wasn't the greatest competition all the time for him, but
Yeah.
when I look at it, I say, hey, look, Micah Abraham made plays. He was a ball hawk at
Yeah.
Marshall. So, what do you think about him and potentially him, maybe being a sleeper player for the Colts?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had a good game when I went to Notre Dame and watched him play Marshall. It was really good, unfortunately. And I think that's why I look at him and I go, look, yeah, he might have had a big pick against Tyler Buckner and he might have made some plays. But, I mean, you were talking about Marshall going to Notre Dame and him being at Notre Dame Stadium, which is not an easy place to play, especially for a small school. And he made plays. Like he needs to gain some weight, sure, but I think the coaching staff, I think Ballard, I think everybody has a lot of confidence in what he could bring. Add a little muscle, get a little bigger because he is pretty small, but he's a guy that I mean, remember we brought in Kenny Moore initially and didn't really expect much. And now, I mean, he had one bad year, but besides that, we love Kenny Moore. Maybe that can happen with Abraham too. He's somebody that will probably play special teams for right now, but maybe he's one of those guys that ends up being a pretty good, reliable corner. I'm not saying like one of the best in the league, but he's a guy that you can put out there when you need him to, and he can make plays.
Hmm.
Like he could end up being one of those guys, and then he could be corner 5 when we draft Benjamin Morrison next year.
Yeah, he maybe so, maybe so. It'll be interesting to see kind of how he goes because, I mean, like when you think about, I think about like small corners the Colts have gotten after. Like Isaiah Rodgers is
Mhm.
obviously like the first name, but he's bigger than Isaiah Rodgers. So, yeah, I'm hoping if he gains a little bit of weight. I mean, he's not like a like he's got to get a little bigger, like you said, like get a little stronger. But he's still 5'11", 190. So, I mean, I think if he
Right.
gains a little bit of weight there, gets to 200 or over, I feel like, if he can continue that production, like, why not? Why couldn't he be a kid that could come in and be, a guy maybe that starts on special teams, but works his way in, like, an Isaiah Rodgers? And if an opportunity presents itself, why not
Mhm.
give him an opportunity? So I don't know. We'll see on that, but he's a kid that I'm excited to just see on the field and kind of how it stacks up to the NFL level, because that always is the question,
Yeah.
small school guys, how do they translate to the NFL? But Chris Ballard's done a pretty good job of finding those later round gems, in corners, those smaller school guys. So, yeah, I'm really intrigued about that when it comes to Mike Abraham. And then the last guy I want to kind of talk about here today, Matt, before we wrap this thing up, is a linebacker that I think maybe we've forgotten about, but I thought played some quality minutes when called upon. That was Saguna Luby. And we don't talk about Segunalubi like ever really on this show. I don't think anybody really talks about Segunalubi,
Right.
but I liked what he did. Like when he had to fill in, obviously he wasn't a starter, but when he was kind of that third linebacker last year, like I think he made some solid plays as a rookie. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, last year, had a pretty good year for the Colts. I mean, 26 total tackles, had an interception as well, pass deflection. Like, he had a pretty solid year for not being the starter. So, I mean, I think he could definitely make the roster. I mean, you look at the linebackers that are definitely going to make it. You got Zaire Franklin, you got EJ Speed, you got Grant Stewart. Those are the three I think that are locked. And then probably Carly's would be another one they end up keeping. But, who's going to be that fourth or fifth linebacker? I think Alubi absolutely could end up being that number 4 or number 5. I thought he showed last year when he's on the field, he can make plays. Had a pretty good game against Houston, too. In the final game of the season, had 8 total tackles in that game. So he was pretty active on the field when he was out there. So, yeah, I think a lot of people might think he gets cut because, he's not going to be the starter, and he's just not somebody a whole lot of Colts fans may remember last season. But when you look at the linebacker room and, obviously, I think they brought 5 linebackers last year, 5 or 6. And Leonard was one of those. Leonard's not with the team anymore. So, Alubi, I think, is going to make the roster. I think he ends up being that 4th linebacker. I think Stewart's the 3rd. And then it's like, who's going to be 5th? Is it going to be like Rodney Harrison? Is it going to be Carly's? Like, who's it going to be? If they keep 6, there you go. There's your 6. But, I think he's going to make it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of factors into this linebacker room. But, guys, that'll do it for our look at some players who we believe are sleepers to make the Indianapolis Colts roster in 2024. Matt, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. Good luck next week playing college football. I hope it's enjoyable for you.
I'm very excited. And look, if any of you watching this are playing against me, you will, well, for one, you'll know because I think Horseshoe Pod is my Xbox tag. So you'll know it's me. And I will just say, do not leave hate comments on this video after I beat you by 60. Because I will demolish everyone. I make people quit. I made my dad quit at halftime. I was winning 100, I think 7.
Are you serious?
So yeah, just in Madden. And he's like, I'm done. It's over. You won. I was like, come on, let's finish the game. You put me through this when I was a little kid. Let's finish the game. Come on,
your payback, man. That's what you got to do.
Hey, maybe you'll score 93 points and you'll come back and win. Wouldn't have happened. But.
Well, everybody go add Matt, and you're going to have a lot of competitors. I think if whoever's watching this video has a PS5 or an Xbox, they'll be
cross-platform. So that's good. So make sure you bring your tissues.
Love it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much. Let us know your thoughts. Are there any other players that you think are sleepers to make the Colts roster in 2024? Let us know those in the comments below. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much. And as always, go Colts.